Good morning and welcome to Confessions of a Cam Model. I was thinking a lot this week about what I wanted to make my video about, and for me it came back down to a question I have received a lot throughout my years of doing this, and that is just, why is it that I do this? So we're going to go into some details about my life and about why I would have been so comfortable doing this in the first place. I know there's different reasons why everybody does it, but these are some of the reasons what led me to this path. This isn't going to be easy for me, so please just bear with me, okay? All right. I grew up with two parents who both struggled with addiction. My parents split up when I was very young. My dad went to jail. My stepdad worked, but never consistently enough to where things were stable. I moved around so much. Like, I went to 15 schools by the time I was in high school, 3 different third grades. Like, I moved around a lot. We got evicted a lot. That was always really stressful and scary. You know, having things like getting kicked out and not knowing like where you were gonna go, not knowing what you're gonna eat. Yeah, that was always really hard. Thankfully, I had my little sister who I knew needed me, so that gave me a lot of like reason and purpose and like taking care of her. And I love her dearly. She's the most important thing in the world to me. So, you know, I held on for her, and it was okay for her, but it was never really easy for me, just kind of being like the parent. My mom slept a lot. I was always the one that was there to take care of her and myself, and I just grew up really fast. I was about I was pretty young when my mom and my stepdad split. I was, you know, early in my teen years, and me and my mom were on our own for the first time ever, which was really cool. But this is when I realized that my mom's addiction was real. People had told me throughout my life, and I just would tell them basically to F off. Like, I was her number one fan and her biggest supporter until I found out what she was actually doing. I would tell people they were lying. They couldn't be right. Like, I knew my mom smoked, but I didn't know that she did hard things. I didn't know that she did anything other than the green stuff. And so I just was like, you're wrong. Like, that's not hard. That's not bad. What are you talking about? My mom doesn't do. No, my mom most definitely did. And so when we were on our own, I finally noticed it, finally realized it. About 15, we got evicted from the apartment that we were living in, and we had to go back to living with my grandma, which is something I've done multiple times throughout my life. My grandma was probably the only reason I had clothes on my back 90% of the time. Like I said, my stepdad did work, and so there'd be times where like there was a ton of food in the house because he went and did a big job, but then like he would also go and get a bunch of hard stuff, and then he would be fucked up, and then he would lose the job. You know what I mean? Or like he would get the job done, but they would never want to hire him again because he was so flaky. And so like it was always this like fluctuation of like we'd be doing okay and we'd be doing really terrible, and then we'd be doing okay and then we'd be doing really terrible. And so that was like a huge scary thing for me. Like, growing up, I never knew when we were gonna move again, when we were gonna be evicted again, when everything was gonna be like uplifted. So when it was just me and my mom, I don't think I expected much different. Like, she didn't really hold down a job very well. Like, there was always something that, you know, that was happening, and I knew I knew it wouldn't last, I guess. So when I moved in with my grandma again, this was probably the hardest housing situation I had ever been in. I had mentioned this previously in a video, just like kind of slightly, that I lived in the living room at my grandma's house. and I slept on these 3 couch cushions on the ground. I had like this small cabinet that had like some clothes in it, but I didn't really have like my personal stuff. I didn't have personal space as a teenage girl. I didn't have really anything of my own. And look, I know it could be worse. I could have been sleeping in a car or something like that. Like, but it was definitely not easy, especially when you add in that my uncle was absolutely terrifying at that age. He'd get mad about the stupidest stuff. He'd get mad if, like, he cleaned the kitchen and you left water on the sink. And I don't just mean, like, on the handle. Like, I mean, like, in the sink. Like, if you threw away food in the trash, he'd get mad. But if you ran the garbage disposal too early, he'd get mad. Just, like, stupid shit. Like, one time, he was, like, hounding me, and he said, "You're so disrespectful." And I said, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. And he punched the ice tray that I was holding right out of my hands and just stormed off. Like, these are some light examples of just how he was. My grandma was a cancer survivor. He knew that he ran the fucking house. She was tough even before she died, but she had this soft spot for her son, and she just wouldn't really stand up to him. So I think everybody in that house walked on eggshells around him when we knew he was in a bad mood. When he was in a good mood, we would try to be in a good mood with him, but I hated it there. Mainly just because I didn't have any space. I didn't have a bed. I didn't have anything to make me feel like I mattered in that area. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I could not wait to get out of there. And so at 18, when I had the chance to move in with my boyfriend at the time, I was like, let's go. Let's do it. Like, it's happening today. And I moved out a month after my birthday, like a month and a half after my birthday. And yeah, never looked back, thankfully. Then, so part 2 to that would be, so growing up hard, moving around a lot, being scared of like where you're gonna live, what you're gonna eat, really makes you want to have like some financial freedom, right? That's a pretty terrifying way to grow up. So then we'll go into part 2. Part 2 is even harder. Okay, we're going for it though. All right. So another part of this in my mind is that, now I know this isn't, once again, I know this isn't all people, but I feel like a lot of people who did this before it got trendy did this because we don't view X the same way as most people. I was never taught to value myself in that sense. I was never taught that it's special or unique or any of those things that most people should be taught. Like, you should be taught that it's a special thing and you shouldn't just give it up to everybody. You should be taught that, like, it takes a piece of you. You should be taught all of these things. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, I know it sounds silly to some of you maybe, but especially as women, we should be taught that. It's a very important thing. So I never was taught that, and in addition to that, I was over-sexualized at a young age, and I think that when that happens in your brain, you learn that this is what I'm good for. And yeah, that's really sad. But until you actually, like, uncover what happened, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't really realize what happened until I was in my late 20s in therapy. Like, I knew there was something, but I couldn't tell you what for the life of me. And so like I never viewed it the way other people did. I never thought that like I should protect that part of me, or that like I should like not do these things. Like I was the girl all throughout high school that was always like pulling my titties out. I had the nickname Titties because like I didn't care. I loved it so much. I loved the attention, and I loved showing off, and I loved being confident and comfortable with my body, and like, and so I was that one, you know. And so like I've always been that person, I guess. So it was easy for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go into camming, because I was like, I've always been super confident and super comfortable with my body. Lo and behold, you know, understanding why I was so overconfident with my body and why I didn't value it later was a doozy for sure. But it's true, like when you're not looking at yourself in that way, like I need to protect this and I need to value this, and like when something like that happens to you, you don't have the same view about what X is. You just don't. You don't have the same view. So I definitely you know, didn't think about what I was doing in a sense of like, how am I putting myself out there, or how are people going to perceive me? Like I didn't have that point of view of like, oh, this is bad. To me, this was never bad. To me, this was like, it made sense. It was, I love showing off. I love, you know, playing all day long. I'm a super hyper sexual person. Like, why not, right? And totally, like, that makes sense for someone like me. It actually became a huge outlet for me to realize, like, to like be confident in myself, and to like just be able to like have those experiences that like I maybe wouldn't in real life. It gave me a lot of power with domination. It gave me just even the ability to like, I don't know, like how to put this, it gave me the ability to experience all the different things and really truly like accept myself for everything that I am. Like I used to be like, oh, I'm too sexual. I'm like a guy. Like I found people that value that, you know what I mean? Like, yes, part of it may be due to trauma, but I think all of our traumas and all of our things in life are like what make us who we are. And I don't think that even finding out about what happened and like even understanding like what happened to me, like it never turned off the sexual side of me. Like that's fully ingrained part of me now. So not viewing it as a bad thing and being like, well, I'm this kind of person, it just made sense to be the path, right? Like it just like I said, it made sense to me. I don't know if it would make sense to everybody. And that kind of leads into like it as a whole, right? As like what I'll call 3. When you grow up constantly worrying about things, wanting freedom of money, you are over sexualized, and you find a career path where you can kind of like thrive in that sense and just be that person that you are in that sense, and then monetize it being part 3. Like why not, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Like I said, I got to a point where everything was so hard to deal with, and like the people weren't it wasn't making me feel good. So after I had my kid, I came back full dom, and that changed everything for me, because then the over-sexualization I was able to take, and I was able to turn it into something good. I was able to take back all of my power, take power from other people, thrive in a sense of learning and growing in different things and different experiences. And it started to become this fun thing of always learning. And I love learning. I love growing. I love psychology. I was going to go to school to be a psychiatrist, but if you ever look into how long that takes, you'll understand exactly why I said, okay, I don't think I'm going to do it. I don't want to spend that long in school. But because my interest in people, and because of that, it was able to be this thing where I felt like every part of me was fulfilled. I got to be a sexual person and enjoy the freaky fun of it. I got to, make good money and have all these experiences. And then I got to talk to people and get to know a side of them that they wouldn't let most people in on. And that was probably, to me, one of the cooler parts of this, was that I did find that people would tell me things that they wouldn't tell other people. People would share things that they, wouldn't be able to say to their partner, this, that, or the other thing. And I always thought it was really cool, kind of getting like a deeper dive into what people think, because we know that like most of the time we don't tell others what we're actually thinking. We like let them in on the surface. But when someone's excited and someone's like in that mode, like they share a lot more, they say a lot more, they do a lot more than they would, if this were a first date or something like that. Like I definitely get to see a side of people that other people don't see. So it started off as like a hard why of like, why would you do this? And then it came to a realization of like, why do I do this? Because I get to help people in a sense. Yeah, some guys are just getting there. But I have had people who I've talked off the ledge of, doing terrible things. I have a trans sub who, said me accepting them made it easier for them to transition. I think that's amazing, because I think everybody should be who they are. I have had people talk to me about issues with their spouse, and I've had them go talk to them, like share these kinks with them, share these things with them, I've been able to help people accept themselves. I've had people who, may like a certain type of humiliation, and they come back to me and they say, I realize that this is really hurting my well-being. Can we reframe this so it can be a more positive thing? There's so much good that I can do from this place that I sit in, and I like that a lot. I like being able to help people. I like being able to make people happy. I do. I like it a lot, in the sense of I get to bring people joy in something they need. Like, this is an intrinsic need, more for men than it is for women, I know, but both sides still, it's a need, and there's no way around that. We all have it, we all need it. And so at this point, my why is I get to do something for people that they can't always get anywhere else. I get to be that safe space for people, and I think that's really cool. It definitely started out as needing financial freedom, needing a outlet for my sexuality, needing so many things. But I love that it evolved into being able to be there for people in their most vulnerable moments, and bring people joy in a way that not everybody could. I won't be doing this forever, but I definitely am happy where I am right now, and I'm grateful for it. And like I said, I know this isn't why everybody does this. I'm funny. There are plenty of girls who, probably come from wealthy families, and you can tell by the backgrounds in their pictures and blah, 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 blah. But if you want a real side of why a lot of girls in this industry did this before it got trendy, if you want a real side of why women would subject themselves to something like this, I want you to think about part 1 and part 2 of what I said. When you grow up that hard, that rough, a lot of people even rougher than what I had, you just want security. And I have a friend who tried to convince me when I was younger, before I found this, to become a 304 with her. And I was not the path for me, thank God. Unfortunately for her, she still to this day is. And it was because the way we grew up. Her and I had talked about it for years, that we just wanted freedom. We just wanted to be safe. We just wanted to be able to have the things that we wanted or needed or anything, And when it comes down to it being like a meal that you really, really wanted, it's hard. And I understand completely why people choose the paths they do. Maybe it helped you understand a little bit too. Thank you for joining me. And if you like this, please join me for more.